there, Dave Brennan with a TurboGrafx 7 Tech Repair. Today I am going over this Gottlieb Pro Pool that I picked up and I'm going to be working on for a family friend that wants me to get this thing fixed up and working for them. Basically, I don't know the status of it. It was separated when I picked it up, so I don't know any of the working status. I just brought it into the house and I just wanted to go over a few things as I go through this repair process. One of the things I start with when I first get a game is now's your opportunity with with the legs off to clean the cabinet, and I like to run a tap through where the leg bolts get attached. So I just thought I'd cover that real quick. And one thing that I use a lot of is a product called Crud Cutter. And what this is a cleaner, degreaser, stain remover. And this game has a lot of white, but it's now cream colored because of you get nicotine stains from this game was likely in bars and wherever. So this is the concentrated version. You can get it in pre-mixed containers, a spray bottle. Do whichever you want. At least with the pre-mixed stuff, you don't have to think about it. Anyway, so I just thought I'd show that real quick. You spray the product on the cabinet. It's pretty light as far as how caustic it is. It's not going to take off your paint. But you leave it sit for a few seconds, and what I just use is some old cut up t-shirts for rags. You can use anything. This will show the nicotine stain because it's white. I just let it sit for maybe about 30 seconds, and then you start to wipe off some of the crud on it. Hence the name Crud Cutter. But right away it starts to bring some of that color back, and you can see the dust and dirt that comes up with it. I'll do that on the rest of the sides of the panels. Same thing on the cabinet itself over here. Move this out of the way. You can kind of see the difference in color on the cabinet. Let me move the camera here. You can see that there's a difference in color in the paint, and underneath where the legs would go, same kind of thing. Go through and let it sit for a couple of seconds, let it soak in, and you'll even see when the Crud Cutter runs down, there'll be like some of that nicotine brown color kind of coming down with it, and then just wipe it off. It's not going to get everything 100% perfect, but it's really just cleaning off that brown nicotine stain. So I'll go through the whole cabinet and do that. The next thing that I do, like I said, this is what is this? 16 by 32 thread. Yeah, basically I run this through and tap the leg bolts, because what can happen is if somebody cross threads the leg bolt, it will screw up the threads on the receiving end. And if you get one of them, if you got one bolt that has threads messed up, you're gonna, each time you move the game, you're gonna move that bolt around to the different legs, and you'll screw up more than one. So it's a good idea to go through and tap these, each one of them now before you put the legs on. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll put the legs on, and we'll start with the rest of the process. I also go through, we're talking about the legs and leg bolts. So You can also do a tap for the bolt itself. It's a 16 by 3/8 tap, and you can run each leg bolt through it, but you don't necessarily have to do each one. I would do the receiving end though of each one, and then just inspect the threads. If you see that they're messed up, you can either replace the bolt or just run the tap through it and clean them out. Same kind of thing when you're inspecting the legs themselves. Now is your opportunity to change out the leg levelers. They can get rusty over time depending on where you're putting the game. These can leave rust spots on your carpet or your floor. Now it's also your opportunity to clean up the legs for any light rust that might be on them, or you can just replace them all together. I think you can get a whole set of them for maybe $50 or something like that. I don't remember. But anyway, so those are a few things to check out. If you're going to leave the leg levelers as is, it's not a bad idea to put something underneath them. There are like rubber pin foots that you can put on, and that will keep the game from sliding around on your floor, as well as protect it from putting any rustings on your carpet. I went through and wiped the cabinet down with Crud Cutter all the way around. I got the legs on now. Now I'm to the part where I'm going to reattach the back box to the cabinet. But now, before I do that, here's a good opportunity to clean up these bolts. Again, it's 16 by 3/8, same as you did for the leg bolts. So just inspect these head bolts before you put those in. And it's also a good idea to run a tap through the T-nuts on where they attach. Also, looking inside the cabinet, this is, since you had it up on end, now's the opportunity to look through on a EM. There's the bottom board that has all the relays. A lot of your, if there's any loose screws or things like that, since it was up on end, they'll roll to the back, and now's your opportunity to grab them out of there, as well as there's labels a lot of times that fall in the back, so you can pick those out of there before you sweep them up with your shop vac. And it also kind of gives you a clue of what's going on with it. Like here's a burnt fuse, so I'll need to look at that. This might give you a clue as to what was going on with it, and can grab out any screws that might have fallen loose, and try to find where those go as you go through and shop out the game. And obviously keep the bring the power cord out and inspect that for any damage or frays. On EMs, these typically don't have a grounded plug to it, but on later games, a lot of times that is missing, so just inspect the cord so when you go to plug this in, you don't have anything that's going to cause a short. And from there, I'll put the back box on and we'll see what we have. Now that I got the back box hooked up here and bolted to the cabinet, pull the Jones plugs through, and this is something I do on every EM. You want to inspect and clean the Jones plugs, and really what you're looking for is are any of these wires loose. Typically I haven't found too many like that, but really it's cleaning the pins, and what you can do for that is take a fresh 3M scuff pad, and you want to run this along on the inside of the pins. But really, where it's contacting is actually on the edge, so this is the important spot, getting the tops and bottoms of it. So you can use scuff pad. I've seen people use some light sandpaper or even a steel brush. But you want to get these cleaned up because the corrosion in here is going to decrease the connectivity and you're going to be chasing a lot of problems if you don't have power going to your relays. So make sure these are cleaned before you even bother to plug them in, and it's going to save you a bunch of troubleshooting headaches going forward. Alright, now that I've got these cleaned up here, I'm going to plug them in. The connectors are keyed, so there's different number of pins for each connector, so you really can't mess it up. You can't plug it, there's a little tab here, you can't plug it in that direction, otherwise the wires get in the way. So really just matching those up and get them plugged in securely. There we go. Now I'm going to go and take the playfield glass off and take a look on the inside of the cabinet and see what we have. Now before even powering the game up, one thing I like to do is go through and check all the fuses of the game and compare it to what it's supposed to be. So there's supposed to be labels on them. You can also check the schematics of what the fuse amperage rating is supposed to be. These first three look like they're all good, nothing's burnt there, they're all 10 amp. But then when I go over into the main fuse and I check this one, it says with the label primary fuse 5 amp slow glow, and you look at the rating on the fuse itself, and I'm seeing that it is a 10 amp. So that's not good. Somebody was overfusing the whole game, and so what I'm going to do is put the correct amperage fuse in there and see what might be blowing in the game, because I saw one fuse that I pulled out earlier that was blown. So I'm going to do that and we'll go from there.
So at this point I replaced the 5 amp fuse that was changed out to a 10 amp. So that's correct now. And I cleaned up the Jones plugs. There's a couple of them in the back, and then one connecting the coin door, so I cleaned those up. And so now it's to the point of turning on the game and kind of seeing what is working and what's not. And so I'll show you when I turn this on what it's doing. So basically it's not getting to the final reset. So basically what I'm going to need to do is go through and start my process of cleaning relays and switches, trying to get this thing back to a steady state, so it's not trying to get back to zero. So I'm going to start working on that and check back in when I make some progress. Alright, so first thing I'm noticing is in the back box here, the player, I believe this is the player and ball count unit. There's really not a whole lot of steppers in the game. In fact, this is the only one. And so basically what I'm seeing here is the rivet contacts are all corroded and gummed up. And then when I try to move this coil, see how it's not even sliding back. There's no recoil on it. So this is all gummed up. So none of these are going to move. And then there's a coil in the back here for the reset, and same kind of thing. This is all gummed up with old grease. So I'm going to clean that up and see where we get from there. So first thing I'll do is I'm going to take some alcohol here and clean up this old caked on grease. It is really solidified in here, so clean all that up. And then any of the pivot joints on the stepper arms that actuate this gear, those are all gummed. And then all the contact rivets on the plate here front, those all need to get cleaned up so they get good continuity. That's likely why the game doesn't know where it's at and why it's not zeroing out. So let me do that, and I'll check back in when it's done. Alright, got this pretty well cleaned up now. This was all gummed up pretty well with some caked on grease, and so basically just the pivot arms needed to clean up with some alcohol, get that freed up, get the old grease off. And now when you actuate the coils, it moves back and forth like it should. I need to clean this switch yet, but I'll show you. So on the contact rivets up above here, cleaned these up. There was some corrosion on it, rust from sitting for a while, and so I cleaned that up with a Scotch-Brite and some alcohol, and then I followed it up with a rotary tool with a Dremel 443 steel brush, and then I lightly coated it with oil. You'll also need to pay attention to, there's little fingers on Gottlieb games that have little springs here, so it's a good idea to clean that little spade that glides along the contact rivets as well. So I'll finish up those couple of contacts, and then this is done, and then I can test it again. After testing the game, after working on that ball count and player stepper unit in the back box, progress is made. It actually is moving the stepper back and forth now, but it's not holding the reset, or it's not recognizing it. So my next step really is to go through each one of these relays, and there's not a ton to go through, but I just basically go through, clean, and adjust as necessary. I'm guessing it's going to be this reset completed relay, because there's a few stacks of switches here, but basically when I go through this, I'm going to check every one of them and make sure that they're all cleaned and adjusted. And so let me pop each one of these off, and I'll show you what that looks like. This first A relay, the reset completed relay, has a couple of make break switches on it and two relay coils. So basically it's a lock and release type coil, and so when it activates, it holds open the switches until the other relay activates. So what I'm going to do is take my rotary tool and get in here and clean between the switches. So this one actually has a double switch behind it, so two switch stacks. So I'll need to get in the back there and clean those, and then I'll go through and make sure that the switch contacts are adjusted properly. So what you really want is, I can already see that one of these isn't activating all the way, this back short switch. So each one, there's a long blade and a short blade, and it's either a make or a break switch, and I can see already that this one switch isn't getting a whole lot of continuity on it. So I'm going to adjust that so it has the proper overwipe, and then I'll move down, and so this one's a little bit of a special relay. The other ones have like a ladder, a switch ladder. So let me adjust that, and I'll move on to something that looks a little bit more normal, like these with the switch ladder. Quiet. Shh. Alright, so I finished the A reset completed relay, and that's adjusted properly. So when I turn the game on, I'm still getting the, it's not resetting to all the way. And so the two relays that are activating, you can see them, I'll turn it on quickly, is the start relay and then the add ball count relay, as well as the score motor. So if you watch, you can see them actuating as it's going. So the next place that I'm going to start is I'm going to do the S relay and the W relay, clean those and adjust those and see where we get before I start digging into the schematics and looking at that. Alright, so I got it to play. Basically, I cleaned out those relays and then I ended up cleaning the score motor as well. So I'm not calling it, it's not complete yet, but it looks like we're playing now, which is progress. So we got lights going. So basically, I'll show you what I did. So now it's the stepper in the back is moving like it's supposed to. It's going through each ball. Ball 2. Ball 1. Alright, that should be game over. I'll have to look at if there's a game over light or what's going on with that. So essentially, what I found was there were some, oops, there were some switches in the score motor that were off a bit, so that was contributing to it. And then inside the coin door down here, there was a switch right here for the coins, and when I took the coin mech out of it, so there's a lock relay here on the coin door, which the game isn't going to start unless this thing is active, and so something was going on with that, and it wasn't contacting, or it was stuck closed or something. So when I adjusted that properly, it seemed to come back to life, but with some issues. So I was still getting, it wasn't starting a game. It would just go into tilt right away. And so basically I had to go through, and there's a tilt switch on the coin door. There's one in the cabinet, and there's one in the back box that I needed to clean and adjust. And then once I did that, and I put credits on it, it fired up. So I think, I mean, it's working, but it still needs to get some of the bugs worked out and be cleaned up. So I'm going to work on that. But at this point, I have a working game.